My son's wife. Refused to help when I fell. Now she's falling apart. After reading my new will, sometimes the cruelest betrayals don't come with screaming or slamming doors. They arrive in moments of silence, when you're lying helpless, and the people you've spent decades caring for simply walk away. I thought I knew my place in this family, until the day I fell in my own kitchen and learned exactly how little I mattered to the people I'd sacrificed everything for. That moment of abandonment changed everything. And now, as I hold my lawyer's pen over a completely rewritten will, I'm about to show them the true cost of taking someone for granted. My name is Helen Turner, and I'm 62 years old. I've been the invisible backbone of this family for nearly 4 decades. And today, I'm going to tell you exactly what happens when that backbone finally breaks. Where are you watching from? If this story resonates with the quiet sacrifices you've made for your own family, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more real-life journeys of finding your voice when everyone else expects you to stay silent. I wake up every morning at 5:30, just like I have for the past 38 years. The house is quiet, peaceful even, but I know that peace will shatter the moment everyone else opens their eyes. "Morning, Mom," Michael mumbles as he stumbles into the kitchen, already reaching for the coffee I've prepared. "Good morning, sweetheart. Your breakfast is ready." He barely looks up from his phone. "Thanks. Hey, can you call the bank about that overdraft fee? I meant to do it yesterday, but..." "Of course." I slide the plate of eggs and toast toward him. "What time is your meeting with the Peterson account?" 10:30. Susan's driving me since my car's still making that noise. Susan appears in the doorway, perfectly dressed as always, her blonde hair smoothed into that sleek bob she spends an hour perfecting each morning. "Helen, did you remember to pick up my dry cleaning yesterday?" "It's hanging in your closet." "And the grocery shopping. We're having the Hendersons over Saturday." I nod, wiping down the counter. "I got everything on your list, plus a few extra things I thought you might need." "Good." She accepts the coffee I pour for her without so much as a thank you. "Oh, and I need you to watch the kids after school today. I have that charity board meeting." Lily and Ben, my grandchildren, are the only bright spots in this routine. They actually hug me when they come downstairs, their faces lighting up when they see the special pancakes I've made just for them. "Grandma Helen, you made the funny faces again." 8-year-old Ben grins, pointing at the smiley face made of blueberries. "They taste better when they're happy," I tell him, ruffling his hair. 10-year-old Lily looks up from cutting her pancakes. "Grandma, will you help me with my science project tonight?" "Of course, sweetheart." Susan's voice cuts through our moment. "Lily, your grandmother has other things to do. You can work on it yourself." "But Mom, she promised she'd..." "She promises a lot of things." Susan's tone is sharp. Sometimes people make promises they can't keep. I bite my tongue, focusing on cleaning Lily's syrup-sticky fingers. The child looks confused, hurt even, but I force a smile. "We'll figure it out, won't we, Lily?" After, everyone leaves. Michael to his office, Susan to her various appointments, the children to school. I sit at the kitchen table with my second cup of coffee and look around at the mess they've left behind. Dishes in the sink, Michael's tie draped over a chair, Susan's makeup compact open on the counter, crumbs scattered across the table. The doorbell rings, and I smile genuinely for the first time all morning. Mrs. Carter, my neighbor and oldest friend, stands on the porch with a plate of her famous oatmeal cookies. "Thought you might need these," she says, following me into the kitchen. "You always know exactly what I need, Margaret." She settles into the chair Susan had vacated an hour earlier. How are things, Helen? And don't give me that everything's fine nonsense. I pour her coffee, considering my words carefully. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if I just stopped. Stopped what? All of it. The cooking, the cleaning, the bill paying, the problem solving. What if I just stopped being useful? Margaret's weathered hands wrap around her mug. Honey, you're not an appliance. You're a person. When's the last time anyone in this family asked how you're feeling? I can't remember. They're busy, Margaret. Michael's career is demanding, and Susan has her charity work. And what about Emily? When's the last time you heard from your daughter? My younger daughter calls maybe once a week, always rushed, always apologizing for not having more time. She's building her practice. Divorce law is competitive. Everyone's busy, Helen. But being busy isn't an excuse for being thoughtless. That afternoon, I pick up the children from school, as promised. Lily climbs into the back seat, her face troubled. Grandma Helen, why did Mom say you make promises you can't keep? My hands tighten on the steering wheel. What do you think she meant? I don't know. You always keep your promises to us. That's right, sweetheart. I do. Ben pipes up from his booster seat. Are you sad, Grandma? Children see everything, don't they? Why would you think I'm sad, honey? You look different. Like when Mom gets that pinchy face, when Dad forgets to take out the trash. I catch his eyes in the rearview mirror. Sometimes grown-ups have complicated feelings, Ben. But you two make me happy every single day. That evening, as I help Lily with her volcano project, Susan returns from her board meeting in a foul mood. The whole thing was a disaster, she announces, dropping her purse on the counter I'd just cleaned. Caroline Morrison thinks she can just waltz in and take over everything I've worked to build. Michael looks up from his laptop. What happened? She questioned every decision I've made, criticized the fundraising numbers, even suggested we need fresh leadership. Fresh leadership. I've been on that board for 5 years. I'm sure it's not as bad as... Don't patronize me, Michael. Susan's voice rises. This is serious. If she gets elected as president, she'll push me out completely. I continue helping Lily measure baking soda, pretending not to listen to the argument brewing behind us. Maybe you should talk to the other board members, Michael suggests. Build some alliances. I've tried that, but Caroline has money, connections. She throws these elaborate dinner parties, wines and dines everyone. So throw your own dinner party. Susan's laugh is bitter. With what money? We're barely keeping up with the mortgage as it is. The truth slips out before I can stop it. You could always use the money from the account I've been managing for you. Both of them turn to stare at me. Susan's eyes narrow. What account? I realize my mistake immediately. They've forgotten about the household emergency fund I've been quietly building from careful budgeting over the years. It's nothing. Just some money I saved from the grocery budget. How much money? Susan's voice is dangerously quiet. About $3,000. $3,000? Michael's eyebrows shoot up. Mom, why didn't you tell us about this? Because I knew exactly what would happen, I think. Because the moment you knew it existed, it would stop being for emergencies and start being for whatever you wanted. I was saving it for something important. Susan's expression shifts, calculating. Well, this is important. This board position could open doors for me, create networking opportunities. Susan, that money isn't what? You just said it was from our grocery budget. Money we gave you to manage. Lily tugs on my sleeve. Grandma, is the volcano ready? I look down at my granddaughter's eager face, then back at the two adults who are already planning how to spend money I'd carefully set aside over months of clipping coupons and finding bargains. Almost ready, sweetheart. But as I help Lily pour the vinegar that will make her volcano erupt, I can't shake the feeling that something else is about to explode. Something that's been building pressure for far longer than I'd realized. The conversation continues behind us. Susan and Michael discussing the dinner party they'll throw with my savings, making plans that don't include asking what I think or whether I agree. And for the first time in 38 years of putting everyone else first, I find myself wondering what would happen if I said no. The next morning, I make a decision that would have seemed impossible just 24 hours earlier. When Susan comes down for breakfast, I'm sitting at the table with my coffee, no plate waiting for her. "Where's breakfast?" she asks, opening the refrigerator. "I thought you might want to make your own today." She turns, eyebrows raised. "Excuse me? You're perfectly capable of making toast, aren't you?" Michael appears, looking around the kitchen with confusion. "Mom, where's my—" "Your breakfast is in the same place it's always been," I say calmly. "In the refrigerator, waiting to be prepared." He stares at me like I've spoken in a foreign language. "But you always—" "I always do a lot of things. That doesn't mean I have to do them forever." Susan slams the refrigerator door. "What's gotten into you?" "Nothing's gotten into me. I've simply decided that able-bodied adults can make their own breakfast. This is ridiculous." Susan grabs a banana from the counter. "We don't have time for your little rebellion." "It's not a rebellion. It's a choice." After they leave, Susan muttering under her breath, Michael shaking his head, I call Margaret. "I did it," I tell her. "Did what?" "I didn't make their breakfast." Her laughter fills the phone. "Helen Turner, you rebel. How do you feel?" "Terrified, exhilarated, like I might throw up." "That sounds about right. What's next?" That afternoon, I drive to see Emily at her law office. My daughter looks tired, her dark hair pulled back, in a messy bun. But she brightens when she sees me. "Mom, what brings you here?" "Can't a mother visit her daughter?" Emily gestures to the chair across from her desk. "Of course, but you usually call first. Everything okay?" I study my younger daughter's face. She has her father's kind eyes, the same ones that used to look at me like I was the most important person in the world. "Emily, do you remember when you were little, and you'd help me in the garden?" She smiles. "You taught me the names of all the flowers. I can still identify a petunia from 50 feet away. You used to say you wanted to be just like me when you grew up." Her smile falters slightly. "Mom, where is this going?" "What changed your mind?" "About what?" "About wanting to be like me." Emily fidgets with her pen. "I don't understand. When did you decide that being a wife and mother wasn't enough? That taking care of a family wasn't valuable?" "Mom, I never said—" "You didn't have to say it. When's the last time you asked me about my life? Not about Michael or Susan, or the grandchildren. About me." Emily's face flushes. "That's not fair. I've been building my career, trying to establish myself." "I understand that. But I'm asking when you stopped seeing me as a person with my own thoughts and feelings." She's quiet for a long moment. "I don't know," she admits finally. "I guess I always saw you as stable, like you had everything figured out." "Stable." I test the word, like a piece of furniture. "That's not what I meant, isn't it?" Emily leans forward. Mom, what's really going on? You're scaring me a little. I reach across the desk and take her hand. I'm 62 years old, Emily. I raised 2 children, supported your father through law school, managed a household, helped Michael start his business, welcomed Susan into our family, and I've been the primary caregiver for Lily and Ben since they were born. I know all that. Do you? Because sometimes I feel like I'm invisible, like I'm only seen when someone needs something. Emily's grip on my hand tightens. You're not invisible to me. When's the last time you called just to talk? Not because you needed advice or wanted to check something off your good daughter list, but because you wanted to hear my voice. She opens her mouth, then closes it. I thought so. That evening, I'm preparing dinner when Susan returns from her afternoon of shopping and appointments. She's in a better mood, humming as she sorts through the mail. I ran into Janet Peterson today, she says. She mentioned that her mother-in-law has been having some health issues. Oh? Nothing serious, just the usual old age stuff. But it got me thinking about our own situation. I continue stirring the sauce, waiting. You're getting older, Helen. We should probably start discussing your future. The spoon in my hand stills. My future? Living arrangements, care options, that sort of thing. I mean, this house is getting to be a lot for you to manage. I turn to face her. Is it? Well, yes. All those stairs, the yard work, the upkeep. Michael and I have been talking, and we think it might be time to consider something smaller, more manageable. Something smaller. There are some lovely senior communities nearby, places where you wouldn't have to worry about cooking or cleaning or maintaining a house. The sauce starts to bubble over, but I don't move to turn down the heat. You want to put me in a nursing home. It's not a nursing home, it's independent living. Very nice places, with activities and people your own age. People my own age. I finally turn off the burner. As opposed to my family. Susan's voice takes on that patient tone she uses with the children when they're being difficult. Helen, be reasonable. You're not getting any younger. And this house is a big responsibility. For whom? For all of us. We worry about you. Living. Here alone? I don't live here alone. I live here with my son and his family. You know what I mean. But I'm beginning to understand that I don't know what she means at all. Or rather, I'm beginning to understand exactly what she means, and it's not what I want to hear. Michael arrives home to find me standing in the kitchen, the dinner I'd been preparing forgotten on the stove, while Susan sits at the table looking frustrated. What's going on? He asks. Your mother is being difficult, Susan says. I'm being realistic, I correct. Susan just suggested that I move to a senior community because this house is too much for me to handle. Michael looks between us. Well, Mom, you have been complaining about the upkeep lately. When? When have I complained? He thinks for a moment. Well, you mentioned that the gutters need cleaning. I mentioned that they need cleaning. Not that I couldn't handle cleaning them. But at your age, what about my age? Mom, you're 62. It's not safe for you to be climbing ladders. So hire someone to clean the gutters. Don't use it as an excuse to ship me off to some facility. Susan stands up. No one's talking about shipping you anywhere. We're trying to think about what's best for everyone. Everyone? Or just you two? That's not fair, Michael says, isn't it? When exactly did you two start making decisions about my life without consulting me? They exchange a look, a quick wordless communication that excludes me completely. We're not making decisions, Susan says carefully. We're just exploring options. Options for what? Another look between them. Michael clears his throat. Mom, the truth is, Susan and I have been talking about possibly expanding our own living space. Maybe adding onto the house or finding something bigger. This is my house. We know that. But you put Michael and me on the deed 2 years ago. Remember? So we could help with financial decisions. I remember. I remember thinking I was being generous, sharing ownership with my son and daughter-in-law to make their lives easier. To give them security. Are you asking me to leave my own home? We're asking you to consider what makes the most sense, Susan says. For everyone. I look at my son, my child, whom I raised, whom I supported through college and graduate school, whom I helped financially when he was starting his business, and I see a stranger. Get out of my kitchen, I say quietly. Mom, get out, both of you. I need to think. After they leave, I sit at the table where I've eaten thousands of meals, planned countless family gatherings, helped with homework, listened to problems, celebrated victories. The house feels different now. Less like a home and more like a battleground. I pull out a notebook and begin writing. First, I list my assets. The house, my savings accounts, my retirement funds, the emergency money Susan wants to spend on, her dinner party. Then I list my relationships, Michael and Susan, who see me as a burden, Emily, who sees me as stable furniture, Lily and Ben, who still see me as Grandma Helen. Finally, I list what I want. To be valued, to be consulted, to be seen as more than just a convenient caretaker. By the time I finish writing, I've made a decision that will change everything. Tomorrow I'm calling a lawyer. 3 days later, I'm in the kitchen making lunch when it happens. One moment I'm reaching for a serving bowl on the high shelf. The next I'm lying on the floor, my hip screaming in pain. Help! I call out, knowing Susan is in the living room just 20 feet away. I need help. I can hear the television playing, some daytime talk show she follows religiously. She has to hear me. Susan, please. My voice is stronger this time, panic giving it volume. The pain in my hip is sharp, shooting down my leg. I try to move, to push myself up, but every movement sends fresh waves of agony through my body. Susan! Nothing. The television continues its cheerful chatter about celebrity gossip and cooking tips. I lie there for what feels like hours, but is probably only minutes, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of my daughter-in-law's deliberate ignorance. She can hear me. I know she can hear me. Please. I whisper to the empty kitchen. Please. The front door opens with its familiar creak. Mom? Emily's voice calls out. I brought those documents you wanted to. Mom! My daughter's footsteps rush toward me, her lawyer's heels clicking rapidly on the hardwood floor. What happened? How long have you been lying here? I fell. I manage. Maybe 10 minutes ago. I called for help, but... Emily's eyes blaze as she looks toward the living room, where the television suddenly goes silent. Susan! Emily's voice could cut glass. Get in here now! Susan appears in the doorway, her expression carefully composed. Oh my goodness, Helen, what happened? She fell, Emily says flatly. 10 minutes ago. She was calling for help. I didn't hear anything. The TV was on, and you know how loud? Bullshit. The profanity from my usually composed daughter surprises all of us. You heard her. This kitchen is 20 feet from where you were sitting. Susan's face flushes. I would never ignore. Help me get her up. Emily interrupts. We need to check if anything's broken. Together they lift me carefully to a chair. My hip throbs, but I can move it. Nothing seems broken, just bruised. "We should take you to the hospital," Emily says. "I'm fine, just shaken up." Susan hovers nearby, wringing her hands. "I really didn't hear you, Helen. I would have come immediately if I'd heard." I look at her. Really look at her. Her makeup is perfect, not a hair out of place. She's been sitting comfortably in my living room, watching television, while I lay helpless on my kitchen floor. "Of course you didn't," I say quietly. Emily studies my face. "Mom, what aren't you telling me?" "Nothing, sweetheart. It was just an accident." But it wasn't just an accident, and we all know it. Susan's deliberate neglect, her willful deaf, ear to my cries for help. It's the culmination of years of being treated as less than human. Michael arrives home early, Susan having called him in a panic once Emily arrived. "Mom, are you okay? Susan said you fell." "I'm fine. She was lying on the floor for 10 minutes, Emily says, her voice ice cold, calling for help. Michael's eyes dart between his wife and sister. 10 minutes? Where were you, Susan?" "I was in the living room. I didn't hear anything." "The living room is right there," Emily points, with a clear view of this kitchen. "I had the television on." "Stop lying." Emily's professional training kicks in, her cross-examination skills on full display. "You heard her. You made a choice to ignore her." Susan's composure cracks. "That's not... I wouldn't... Why would I ignore her? You tell me." "This is ridiculous." Susan's voice rises. "I would never deliberately ignore someone who needed help. Wouldn't you?" Emily steps closer, because it seems to me that ignoring Mom is exactly what you've been doing for years. Michael intervenes. "Em, that's enough. Susan wouldn't..." "Wouldn't what, Michael? Wouldn't treat your mother like she's invisible? Wouldn't dismiss her feelings? Wouldn't try to push her out of her own home?" I watch this confrontation unfold, my children and my daughter-in-law battling over my dignity, and I realize something profound. I don't need anyone to fight this battle for me. "Stop," I say quietly. They continue arguing. "Stop." Louder this time. Emily turns to me, her face flushed with righteous anger. "Mom, you don't have to protect her. What she did was show me exactly where I stand in this family." The room falls silent. "Susan, you heard me fall. You heard me call for help. And you made a conscious decision to do nothing." "That's not true." "It is true. And you know what? I'm grateful." Susan's mouth drops open. "Grateful?" "Yes, because now I know. Now I understand exactly how much my life is worth to you." I stand slowly, testing my weight on my bruised hip. It hurts, but I can walk. "Michael, your wife showed me something important today. She showed me that my pain, my fear, my need for help, none of it matters to her." "Mom, I'm sure she didn't mean... She meant it." I look directly at Susan. "You meant every second of it. Every moment you sat there listening to me beg for help and chose to do nothing." Susan's eyes fill with tears, but I can't tell if they're from guilt or self-pity. "I'm sorry," she whispers. "Are you? Are you sorry you ignored me? Or are you sorry you got caught?" She doesn't answer. That night, after everyone has gone to bed, I sit in my room with the notebook I started 3 days ago. I add a new entry. Today I learned that my daughter-in-law will let me lie helpless on my own kitchen floor, rather than interrupt her television program. Today I learned that my Cries for help are worth less to her than a daytime talk show. Today I learned that I am truly on my own. But as I write those words, I realize something else. Being on my own doesn't frighten me anymore. What frightens me is the thought of continuing to live as though I need their approval, their consideration, their love. I don't need their love. What I need is my self-respect, and tomorrow, I'm going to start getting it back. I pick up my phone and dial information. Yes, I need the number for Green & Associates law firm. Ms. Green's office smells like leather and determination. At 50-something, with silver hair and sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, she reminds me of the woman I used to be before I disappeared into other people's needs. Mrs. Turner, you mentioned on the phone that you want to review your estate. Planning. What specifically concerns you? I fold my hands in my lap. I want to know exactly what I own, and who has legal claim to what. She opens a file folder. I've pulled the documents you sent over. Let's start with the house. My husband and I bought it in 1987. When he died 8 years ago, I inherited it outright. But you added your son and daughter-in-law to the deed 2 years ago. Yes, they said it would make things easier if something happened to me. Ms. Green's pen pauses on her legal pad. Easier for whom? That's what I'm beginning to wonder. She explains the implications, how joint ownership works, what rights each party has, how property can be sold or transferred. I listen carefully, taking notes, asking questions. What about my other assets? Your retirement accounts are in your name only. Same with your savings accounts and investments. You have approximately $400,000 in total assets, excluding the house. $400,000. I had no idea it was that much. Mrs. Turner, may I ask what prompted this review? I tell her about the fall, about Susan's neglect, about the years of being taken for granted. Ms. Green listens without judgment, occasionally making notes. What do you want to accomplish? I want to make sure my assets go to people who actually care about me, and I want to understand my rights while I'm still alive. Those are both reasonable goals. Let me ask you this. If you died tomorrow, how would you want your estate divided? I consider this. My daughter, Emily, should inherit the house and the majority of my assets. She's the only one who sees me as a person instead of a convenience. What about your son, Michael? I pause, thinking of the man who used to climb into my lap for bedtime stories, who brought me dandelions and called them flowers. I love my son, but he's chosen his wife over his mother repeatedly. That has consequences. And your grandchildren? I want to make sure they're provided for, but not through their parents. Trust funds, maybe, for education. Ms. Green nods. We can arrange all of that. What about your current living situation? I explained Susan's suggestion about senior living communities, about their plans to expand the house. Do you want to continue living with them? The question hangs in the air. Do I? I want to live where I'm respected. If that means living alone, so be it. Over the next week, I begin to take inventory of my life. I review bank statements, investment accounts, insurance policies. I make lists of my possessions. The china my mother left me, the jewelry from my husband, the books I've collected over decades. Margaret finds me at the kitchen table surrounded by papers. Spring cleaning. Life cleaning. Margaret, did you know I have almost $500,000 in assets? She whistles low. Helen Turner, you dark horse. What are you going to do, with that information? I'm going to use it wisely. That afternoon, I drive to the bank and make some transfers. I open a new checking account that only I control. I move money from the joint account that Michael and Susan have access to into accounts that are mine alone. When I return home, Susan is in the kitchen with sample invitations spread across the table. "I've been thinking about the dinner party," she says without looking up. "Something elegant but not too formal. What do you think of these?" I glance at the expensive cardstock, the gold embossing. "How much do they cost?" $50 for 100 invitations. Plus postage, of course. $50 just for invitations? "Helen, this is important. First impressions matter." I sit down across from her. "Susan, we need to talk about the money." "What money?" "The $3,000 you want to use for this party." Her smile is patronizing. "I thought we already discussed this. Michael agreed it was a good investment." "Michael doesn't get to agree to spend my money." "Your money?" Her eyebrows rise. "You said it came from the grocery budget we give you." "The grocery budget you give me to manage. That doesn't make the savings mine to spend on whatever you want." Susan's voice takes on that patient tone again. "Helen, be reasonable. This party could make a real difference in my career. Sometimes you have to spend money to make money." "Then spend your own money." "We don't have $3,000 just sitting around." "That's not my problem." Susan's mask of politeness slips. "Excuse me." "You heard me. Your financial situation is not my responsibility. We pay for your food, your utilities, I pay for my food and utilities. I contribute $800 a month to this household. $800 doesn't cover... It covers my share. I'm one person. You, Michael, and the children are 4 people. I pay for a quarter of the household expenses. Plus, I do all the grocery shopping, cooking, and cleaning. What exactly do you think you're providing me?" Susan stares at me. "A place to live." "In my own house." "It's not just your house anymore. Michael and I are on the deed, too." "Yes, you are. That was my mistake." She gathers up the invitation samples. "I don't understand why you're being so difficult about this. It's $3,000, Helen. It's not like we're asking for your life savings." "What if you were? What if I needed that money for medical expenses or home repairs? Would you still think it was reasonable to spend it on fancy invitations and wine for your friends? That's not the same thing, isn't it?" That evening, I call Emily. "How are you feeling after the fall?" She asks immediately. "Better. Emily, I need to ask you something. Do you think I'm being unreasonable about the money Susan wants for her party?" "The money you saved from the grocery budget?" "Yes." "Mom, that money is yours. You earned it by being careful, by finding bargains, by managing their household expenses better than they could manage them themselves. Of course you're not being unreasonable." Susan seems to think I'm being selfish. Susan thinks a lot of things that aren't true. She also thinks it's acceptable to ignore someone who's hurt and calling for help. Emily's voice is still bitter about the incident. I don't blame her. "I'm thinking about making some changes," I tell her. "What kind of changes?" "Living arrangements, financial arrangements, all of it." "Good. It's about time." "Are you sure? I don't want to break up the family." "Mom, the family is already broken. You're just the only one who's been trying to hold the pieces together." After we hang up, I return to my notebook. I make a new list. Things I want to change. Things I need to change. Things I will change. At the top of the list, I write, "Stop asking permission to live my own life." The next morning, I make breakfast for myself and the children. When Susan comes downstairs, she looks at the empty counter. "Where's my breakfast?" "In the refrigerator." Same place it was yesterday. Helen, we talked about this childish behavior. I sipped my coffee calmly. Yes, we did. And I decided that adults who can afford $50 invitations can certainly afford to make their own toast. Susan's face reddens, but before she can respond, Lily and Ben come downstairs. They hug me good morning and I help them get their breakfast. Normal grandmotherly activities. The kind of relationship I want to preserve. After everyone leaves, I make another phone call. Ms. Green, it's Helen Turner. I've made some decisions about my estate planning. When can we meet again? How about this afternoon? Perfect. And Ms. Green, I want to discuss something else. What would it take to remove names from a property deed? There's a pause. That's a complex process, Mrs. Turner, but it can be done. Good, because I'm ready to do complex things. The envelope from Green and Associates arrives on a Tuesday. I recognize the letterhead immediately and slip it into my purse before anyone else can see it. My will has been updated, witnessed, and notarized. Everything is exactly as I requested. That afternoon, Michael calls from work. Mom, the bank called. They said there was unusual activity on the household account. I continue folding laundry as I speak. What kind of unusual activity? Large withdrawals. They wanted to verify it wasn't fraud. It wasn't fraud. I moved some money to a different account. You moved money? Mom, why would you? Because it's my money, Michael. There's a pause. We've always managed the finances together. No, I've managed the finances while you and Susan spent the money. That's not the same thing. This is about the dinner party, isn't it? Look, if you don't want Susan to use that money, it's not about the dinner party. It's about respect. When he comes home that evening, Susan is waiting for him in the kitchen. I can hear their whispered conversation from the living room, where I'm helping Ben with his homework. She moved $3,000, Susan hisses. Just took it out of the account without telling us. It's her money, Susan. It's household money. Money we all depend on. Grandma, Ben interrupts my eavesdropping. What's 8 times 7? 56, sweetheart. How do you know that so fast? Practice. When you've been doing math as long as I have, some things become automatic. Like knowing when you're being taken for granted. I think. Like recognizing the sound of people discussing you, as if you're not a person, but a problem to be solved. Michael appears in the doorway. Mom, can we talk? I follow him to his study, where he closes the door behind us. Susan's upset about the money. I imagine she is. She's been counting on it for this board position. She can count on her own money. Michael runs his hands through his hair, a gesture I remember from his childhood when he was frustrated. Mom, you're making this harder than it needs to be. How so? We're family. We should support each other. Shh, I've been supporting this family for 38 years, Michael. When exactly do I get some support in return? You know we appreciate everything you do. Do I? Because 3 days ago, your wife let me lie on the kitchen floor rather than get up from her television program. His face flushes. That was a misunderstanding. Was it? What part was misunderstood? The part where I called for help? Or the part where she ignored me? Susan feels terrible about that. Susan feels terrible about getting caught. That's not fair. I look at my son. Really look at him. When did he become someone who makes excuses? For cruelty? Michael, let me ask you something. If you fell and were hurt, and I ignored your calls for help, how would you feel? That's different. How? You would never ignore me. Exactly. So why is it acceptable for Susan to ignore me? He doesn't have an answer for that. Over the next few days, I make more changes. I stop doing Susan's laundry. I stop picking up after everyone. I start making dinner only for myself and whoever asks politely. The children adapt quickly. "Grandma, Helen," Lily says one afternoon, "would you please make me a sandwich?" "Of course, sweetheart. What kind would you like?" "Peanut butter and jelly. And could you cut off the crusts?" "Absolutely." Susan, overhearing this, sighs dramatically. "Helen, you're confusing the children with all these new rules." "What rules?" "Making them ask for things they used to just expect." "You mean making them ask politely for help instead of demanding it?" "They're children. They shouldn't have to negotiate for basic care." I finish cutting Lily's sandwich and hand it to her. "They're not negotiating, Susan. They're learning manners." "And what exactly are you teaching them about family obligations?" I consider this question carefully. "I'm teaching them that people who care about each other treat each other with respect and gratitude." "Are you implying that we don't treat you with respect?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating it directly." That weekend, Margaret comes over for coffee and finds the house unusually quiet. "Where is everyone?" "Michael took the children to his mother-in-law's house. Susan went with them." "And left you here alone?" "I chose to stay home. I'm not particularly welcome at Susan's mother's house." Margaret raises an eyebrow. "Oh." "According to Susan, her mother thinks I'm too involved in their family life. Too involved. You live with them." "I know. Apparently that's the problem." We sit in comfortable silence for a moment. Margaret has been my friend for 23 years. She's seen me through my husband's death, Michael's difficult teenage years, Emily's divorce, the children's births. She knows my history. "Helen, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "What do you want to happen here?" I've been asking myself the same question. "I want to be valued. I want my contributions acknowledged. I want to be treated like a person instead of a convenience." "And if that doesn't happen?" "Then I want to live somewhere I am valued." "Would you really leave?" The question surprises me with its obviousness. "Margaret, I'm 62 years old. I have maybe 20 good years left. Do I really want to spend them begging for basic respect from people who should love me? What about the grandchildren?" "I'll always be their grandmother, but I won't model being a doormat for them, especially not for Lily. I don't want her to grow up thinking that women exist to serve everyone else." When the family returns that evening, I'm reading in the living room. The children run to hug me, chattering about their day with their other grandmother. "She has a swimming pool," Ben announces, "and a big garden with roses." Lily adds, "That sounds wonderful." I tell them. Susan appears in the doorway. "The children had such a nice time. My mother loves spoiling them." "I'm sure she does. She was asking about you, actually." "Oh." "She wanted to know why you didn't come with us." I look up from my book. "What did you tell her?" "I told her you preferred to stay home." "And what did she say to that?" Susan shifts uncomfortably. "She said it was probably for the best." "Probably for the best?" "She thinks. She feels that sometimes multiple generations living together can create tension." "I see. And what do you think?" "I think she might have a point." There it is. The conversation Susan has been trying to have for months, finally out in the open. "Are you asking me to move out of my own house, Susan?" "I'm not asking anything. I'm just saying that maybe we should all consider what's best for everyone." Michael appears behind her. What's going on? Your wife is suggesting that I move out because her mother thinks I create tension. That's not what I said. What did you say? Susan looks to Michael for support. I said that maybe we should consider all our options. What options? Michael asks. Living arrangements. Everyone might be happier with a little more space. I close my book and stand up. You're right, Susan. Everyone might be happier with more space. Her face brightens. So you'll consider... I'll consider it. But first, I think we should consider another option. What option? You and Michael finding your own place. The silence that follows is deafening. This is your house, too, Michael says finally. Yes, it is. And as a joint owner, I have the right to decide who lives here. You can't kick us out, Susan sputters. Can't I? Ms. Green, my lawyer, seems to think there are several ways to approach this situation. Your lawyer? Michael's voice is sharp. Did you think I wouldn't get legal advice about my own property? They stare at me as if I've grown a second head. Mom, let's not do anything hasty, Michael says. Hasty? I've been thinking about this for weeks. We can work this out, Susan says quickly. We don't need lawyers. You're right, we don't need lawyers. We need honesty. I look at both of them. These two adults who have been making plans for my life without consulting me, who have been spending my money without asking, who have been treating my home like their property and me like their employee. Here's what's going to happen, I tell them. Tomorrow we're going to sit down and have a family meeting, a real one, and we're going to discuss everyone's expectations and everyone's contributions. What kind of contributions? Susan asks, warily. Financial, domestic, emotional, everything. Because if we're going to continue living together, it's going to be as equals, not as a service provider and her clients. After they leave the room, I return to my book, but I can't concentrate on the words. My heart is racing, but not from fear. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm driving my own life instead of being a passenger. Tomorrow everything changes. The family meeting happens at the kitchen table on Sunday morning. I've prepared an agenda, something that clearly surprises everyone. I've divided this into 3 categories. I begin, consulting my notes. Financial contributions, domestic responsibilities, and decision-making authority. Michael shifts uncomfortably. Mom, this feels very formal. Good. It should be formal. We're discussing a business arrangement. A business arrangement? Susan's voice is incredulous. We're a family. Are we? Because families typically involve mutual respect and consideration. What we have is a situation where I provide services, and you consume them. Emily, whom I invited specifically for moral support, takes notes on her legal pad. Go ahead, Mom. Financial contributions first. I contribute $800 monthly to household expenses. Plus, I buy all groceries and household supplies, using money I've saved through careful budgeting. Michael and Susan, what do you contribute? Michael looks defensive. We pay the mortgage. How much is the mortgage? $1,200 a month. And how much are your combined monthly incomes? He hesitates. About $8,000. So, you pay 15% of your income for housing, while I pay 60% of my income for housing, plus food for 4 people. Susan jumps in. You don't pay rent because you own the house. I own 1/3 of the house. You and Michael own the other 2/3, remember? So technically, I'm paying rent to live in a house I used to own completely. Emily looks up from her notes. Mom, is that legally accurate? According to Ms. Green, yes. When I added Michael and Susan to the deed, I gave them ownership stakes. They could theoretically force a sale of the property if they wanted. The blood drains from Michael's face. We would never, wouldn't you? Susan already suggested I should move to a senior community to make room for your expansion plans. That's not what I said. What did you say? Susan fidgets with her coffee cup. I said we should consider all options for everyone's comfort, including moving me out of my own home. For your own good. Let's talk about domestic responsibilities. I continue, consulting my agenda. I do all grocery shopping, meal planning, cooking, and cleanup. I do laundry for everyone except Emily, who doesn't live here. I manage the household budget, pay, bills, and maintain the calendar. What domestic responsibilities do you two handle? Michael and Susan exchange glances. I take care of the yard. Michael offers. When's the last time you mowed the lawn? I hire someone to do it, with money from the household budget that I manage. I handle the children's school activities, Susan says. You drive them to activities that I help them prepare for, using supplies I purchase, wearing clothes I wash. Susan's voice rises. Are you keeping score of every little thing we do? Every little thing you don't do, I correct. Emily, in your professional opinion, if this were a roommate situation rather than a family situation, would this arrangement be equitable? Emily doesn't hesitate. Absolutely not. You're being financially and domestically exploited. We're not exploiting anyone, Michael protests. Mom lives here by choice. Do I? When's the last time anyone asked what I wanted? When's the last time anyone considered my preferences for dinner? Or whether I wanted to spend my Saturday cleaning up after everyone? Or whether I minded being the default babysitter? You love taking care of the children, Susan says. I do love the children. That doesn't mean I love being taken for granted. Lily and Ben, who have been playing in the living room, wander into the kitchen. Why is everyone talking so serious? Ben asks. I pull him onto my lap. We're having a grown-up conversation about fairness, sweetheart. What's fairness? It's when everyone in a family helps take care of each other, instead of just one person taking care of everyone else. Lily climbs onto Emily's lap. Like how Mommy makes us clean our room instead of doing it for us. Exactly like that. Susan's face reddens. Are you using the children to make a point? I'm answering their question honestly. Kids, why don't you go play outside? Michael suggests. After they leave, the tension in the room is palpable. Decision-making authority, I continue. Who decided that Susan should spend my emergency fund on her dinner party? We discussed it, Michael says. You and Susan discussed it. I was informed of your decision. You could have said no. Could I? Because when I did say no, Susan called me selfish and unreasonable. Susan leans forward. Helen, you're blowing this out of proportion. We're talking about $3,000. No, we're talking about respect. We're talking about whether I have the right to make decisions about my own money. Your money that came from our grocery budget. Money I saved through my careful management of a budget you gave me. Money that wouldn't exist if you two were managing the groceries yourselves. Emily speaks up. Susan, in what world is money saved through Helen's efforts, not Helen's money? In the world where we're supposed to be a family unit working together. Working together implies that everyone contributes. Emily responds. What exactly do you contribute to this family unit? Susan's mouth opens and closes like a fish. I manage the children's schedules. Mom manages their homework, their emotional needs, their daily care, and their meals. You drive them places. I have my charity work, which benefits you professionally and socially. What does it do for this family? Emily, that's enough. Michael intervenes. Susan works hard at what? At taking credit for a household that runs smoothly because your mother makes it run smoothly. At spending money she didn't earn on parties for people who don't care about this family. I watch my children argue about my value, and I realize something profound. Emily sees it. Emily understands what's been happening here. Stop, I say, quietly. They continue arguing. Stop. Louder this time. The room falls silent. This isn't about Susan's charity work or Michael's career or Emily's legal expertise. This is about whether I matter in my own life. I stand up, gathering my agenda and notes. I've made some decisions. First, I'm taking back control of my finances. The household account that you two have access to will be closed. You can manage your own money and pay your own share of expenses directly. Mom, that's not practical, Michael protests. Second, I'm scaling back my domestic contributions. I'll cook for myself and anyone who asks politely. I'll clean up after myself. I'll do my own laundry. You two are adults. You can figure out how to take care of yourselves. What about the children? Susan asks. What about them? They're your children. I'm happy to help when asked, but I'm not their primary caregiver. You are. Third, I continue. Any decisions about this house, renovations, changes, who lives here, will be made by all 3 deed holders together, or not at all. Michael looks stricken. Mom, you're being extreme. Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, expecting basic respect and consideration seems pretty reasonable. Susan stands abruptly. Fine. If that's how you want it, fine. But don't expect us to pretend everything is normal when you're treating us like strangers. I'm treating you like adults. If that feels strange, maybe you should ask yourselves why. After they leave the room, Emily and I sit in the quiet kitchen. How do you feel? She asks. Terrified, exhilarated, like I might throw up. She laughs. That sounds about right. Mom, I'm proud of you. Are you? You've been invisible for so long. I'd forgotten how strong you are. I'd forgotten too. That evening, I'm in my room when someone knocks on the door. It's Lily, her face troubled. Grandma Helen, are you mad at Mommy and Daddy? I pat the bed beside me, and she climbs up. I'm not mad, sweetheart. I'm disappointed. What's the difference? Mad is when someone does something bad and you want to yell at them. Disappointed is when someone you love doesn't treat you the way you wish they would. Do Mommy and Daddy treat you bad? The question breaks my heart, because she's asking as someone who loves us all. Sometimes people who love each other forget to show it properly. Sometimes they take each other for granted. What does that mean? It means they stop saying thank you. They stop asking how you feel. They stop treating you like your feelings matter. Lily considers this. Like when Ben takes my toys without asking because he knows I won't stop him. Exactly like that. So you're teaching them to ask? Out of the mouths of babes. Yes, sweetheart, I'm teaching them to ask. She hugs me tight. I think that's good. People should ask. Yes, they should. After she leaves, I call Margaret. How did it go? I think I just blew up my family. Good. It was time. What if they decide to move out? What if they take the children, and I never see them again? Helen, do you really think Michael would keep his children away from you out of spite? I consider this. No, Michael's not cruel. He's just weak. And Susan might try, but Emily won't let her. So what's the worst that could happen? I could end up living alone. And would that be worse than living as an unpaid servant in your own home? The question hangs in the air, and I realize I already know the answer. No, it wouldn't be worse at all. 2 weeks after our family meeting, I'm going through the household files when I find something that makes my blood run cold. Hidden behind the mortgage papers is a credit card statement, one I've never seen before. The balance is $18,000. I spread the statements across the kitchen table, my hands shaking as I trace the charges. Designer clothes, expensive restaurants, spa treatments, weekend getaways. All of it charged to a card in my name. My name. The front door opens, and Susan walks in carrying shopping bags from Nordstrom. "Susan, we need to talk." She glances at the papers scattered across the table, and her face goes white. "Where did you find those?" "In the household files, in a folder marked Helen's Documents." I hold up one of the statements. "This credit card is in my name." "I can explain." "Please do. Explain to me how you've been charging $18,000 to a credit card I didn't know existed." Susan sets down her shopping bags with trembling hands. "When we added you to our family credit card account, the bank automatically issued you a card." "I never applied for a credit card." "You didn't have to. As a joint account holder, you were automatically eligible. And you've been using it." Yes. "For 2 years." "Yes." I feel dizzy. "Susan, this is fraud." "It's not fraud. Your name is on the account." "My name is on the account without my knowledge or consent. You've been using my credit to buy things for yourself. I always intended to pay it back." "With what money? You just told me 2 weeks ago that you don't have $3,000 for your dinner party." Susan sinks into a chair. "I know how this looks." "How does it look?" "Bad. It looks bad. But, Helen, I never meant for it to get this out of hand." "What did you mean?" "I meant to use it for emergencies. Small things. But then my mother got sick and we needed to travel to see her. And Michael's business had that slow period." "Stop." I rifle through the statements. "These charges aren't for emergencies. Tina's Spa and Wellness Center isn't an emergency. Bella Notte Restaurant isn't an emergency. Designer handbags aren't emergencies. Some of those were for business, networking events, client meetings. Susan, you don't have a job." The words hang in the air between us. "My charity work is important." "Your charity work doesn't generate income. These charges are for personal expenses, entertainment, and luxury items." I continue examining the statements, finding charges I recognize. "You used this card to pay for Lily's birthday party, the one where you hired the professional entertainer and rented the bounce house." "The children deserved a nice party." "You used my credit to throw your daughter an expensive party and never told me." Susan's voice becomes defensive. "You were there. You enjoyed seeing her happy." "That's not the point. The point is that you stole my identity to pay for it." "I didn't steal your identity. I used a card that had your name on it." I stare at her. "Susan, do you understand that identity theft is a federal crime?" Her composure finally cracks, completely. "You're not going to press charges. We're family." "Are we?" "Because family members don't commit fraud against each other." I gather up the statements and head toward the phone. "What are you doing?" Calling my lawyer. Helen, wait, please. Let's talk about this rationally. I am being rational. You've committed a serious crime, and I need legal advice. Think about the children. Think about what this would do to them. I pause, my hand on the phone. What would it do to them? They'd find out their mother is a criminal. They'd be humiliated. Their mother is a criminal. That's not my fault. But you could choose not to pursue it. You could choose to protect them. I look at this woman who has been living in my house, eating food I prepared, wearing clothes I washed, spending money stolen from me, and who is now asking me to cover up her crimes to protect her children. Susan, where did you think this money was going to come from? When these bills came due, how did you plan to pay them? She doesn't answer. You planned to use my estate, didn't you? You figured that when I died, there would be enough money to cover your debts. That's not... Never. You've been spending my money as if I were already dead. Susan starts crying. Big, dramatic sobs that might have worked on me a month ago. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to happen like this. How did you mean for it to happen? I thought I could pay it back before you found out. With what money? Michael's business is picking up. The charity board position could lead to paid opportunities. I thought... You thought you could gamble with my financial security, and everything would work out fine. I dial Ms. Green's number. Ms. Green? It's Helen Turner. I need to see you immediately. I've discovered that someone has been using my identity to accumulate debt. Susan's sobs get louder. Yes, I have all the documentation. I'll be there in an hour. After I hang up, Susan looks at me with desperate eyes. Please don't do this. I'll find a way to pay it back. How? I'll get a job. I'll sell things. Susan, you can't possibly earn $18,000 plus interest anytime soon. And that's assuming you stop spending, which this morning's shopping bags suggest you haven't. She looks at the Nordstrom bags as if seeing them for the first time. I can return those. What about all the other things? The spa treatments, the expensive dinners, the weekend trips? I know I made mistakes. You made crimes, Susan. Multiple crimes over multiple years. Michael chooses that moment to come home early from work. What's going on? Susan, why are you crying? I hand him the credit card statements. Your wife has been using my identity to charge $18,000 in personal expenses. He flips through the papers, his face growing pale. Susan, what is this? I can explain. You'd better start explaining. The card came automatically when we set up the joint account. I only meant to use it for emergencies. Michael examines the statements more closely. These aren't emergencies. This is a spa day. This is dinner at that expensive place downtown. Susan, what were you thinking? I was thinking that we deserved nice things, too. I was thinking that Helen has all this money sitting around while we're struggling to make ends meet. So you stole it? Michael's voice is incredulous. I borrowed it, without asking, without permission, without telling anyone. He looks at me. Mom, how long has this been going on? According to these statements, about 2 years. 2 years. He sits down heavily. Susan, this is fraud. Don't you start too? Start what? Telling the truth. Susan, you committed multiple felonies. Against your mother. Against a member of our family. Your mother who's been threatening to kick us out of our own home. It's not our home. Michael's voice rises. It's her home that she generously added us to the deed of, and you've been stealing from her for 2 years. Susan turns to me with desperation in her eyes. "Helen, please! I'm begging you, don't press charges. I'll do anything. 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 I consider this. Move out." "What? Move out of my house. Today. Find your own place to live." "We can't afford." "Then maybe you should have thought of that before you spent $18,000 of my money." Michael stands up. "Mom, that's extreme. Where would we go?" "That's not my problem to solve, Michael." "What about the children?" This is the only home they've ever known. "The children are welcome to visit any time, but I will not continue to house someone who steals from me." Susan's tears stop abruptly. "You can't kick us out. We're on the deed too. Actually, according to Ms. Green, I can. When criminal activity is involved, joint property ownership becomes more complicated." "You're bluffing." "Am I? Would you like to find out?" Emily's car pulls into the driveway. I called her after I found the statements, knowing I would need emotional support for what was coming. "Emily's here," I announce. "I asked her to come over." "Why?" "Because I wanted a witness to this conversation, and because as a lawyer she might have insights about identity theft cases." Susan looks like she might faint. Emily walks in, takes one look at the scene. The credit card statements spread across the table. Susan's tear-stained face. Michael's shocked expression, and immediately understands. "How much?" she asks. 18,000. Emily whistles low. "Susan, you're in serious trouble." "Everyone keeps saying that, because it's true. Identity theft, credit card fraud, potentially wire fraud if any of these charges cross state lines. You're looking at federal charges." "I didn't steal anyone's identity. I used a card with my mother-in-law's name on it." "Without her knowledge or consent. That's the definition of identity theft." Susan looks around the room desperately. This is insane. Families don't press charges against each other over money. "Di?" Emily's voice is ice cold. "Families don't steal from each other either." "Michael, say something. Tell them this is crazy." Michael has been silent through this exchange, studying the credit card statements. Finally, he looks up. "Susan, how could you do this?" "I did it for us, for our family. You did it for yourself. Spa treatments and designer handbags aren't for our family. I needed those things for networking, for making connections. You needed to ask. You needed to discuss it. You needed to be honest. Would you have said yes?" "That's not the point." "It is the point." You would have said no. Helen would have said no. Everyone would have said no. But I'm trying to build something here. Trying to create opportunities. By stealing. Emily interrupts. "You're trying to build something by stealing from a woman who's given you a home, cared for your children, and managed your household for years." "She's not giving me anything. This is my home, too." "This is her home that she allowed you to live in. There's a difference." I stand up, gathering the credit card statements. "I'm going to see Ms. Green now. When I come back, I want you packed and out of my house." "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious." "What about the children's school? Their friends? Their whole lives are here." "You should have thought about that before you committed multiple felonies." Susan looks at Michael desperately. "Are you going to let her do this to your family?" Michael's answer surprises everyone, including me. "Susan, you did this to our family, not Mom." As I head for the door with Emily, I hear Susan's voice behind me, no longer pleading but angry. "This isn't over, Helen. You think you can destroy my life, but I won't let you." I turn back to look at her. "Susan, I didn't destroy your life. You did that all by yourself. By the time Emily and I returned from Ms. Green's office, the house is in chaos. Susan has turned into a whirlwind of rage and desperation, throwing clothes into suitcases while screaming at Michael. This is your mother, Michael. Your mother is destroying our family. No, Susan. You destroyed our family when you decided to steal from her. I didn't steal anything. I used money that was available to me. Money in an account you opened without her knowledge, using her identity. I find Lily and Ben huddled in the living room, clearly terrified by their parents, shouting. "What's happening, Grandma Helen?" Lily asks, her eyes wide with confusion. I sit on the couch between them, pulling them close. Your parents are having a disagreement about some grown-up problems. Are they getting divorced? Ben's voice is small. I don't know, sweetheart. But whatever happens between your mommy and Daddy, it doesn't change how much they love you. Are we moving? Lily asks. Your parents are going to find a new place to live. What about you? I'm staying here. This is my house. Can we visit you? Anytime you want. This will always be your grandmother's house, and you will always be welcome here. Michael appears in the doorway, looking haggard. Kids, go pack some clothes. We're going to stay at a hotel tonight. A hotel? Ben's face lights up despite the chaos. With a swimming pool? Maybe, buddy. After the children run upstairs, Michael sits across from me. Mom, I need you to know that I had no idea about the credit card. I believe you. If I had known, I would have stopped it immediately. I know. She's not a bad person. She gets these ideas, and she doesn't think about consequences. I study my son's face. Michael, she stole $18,000 from me over 2 years. That's not an impulse decision. That's a pattern of deliberate theft. I know. I know it looks terrible. It doesn't look terrible. It is terrible. He runs his hands through his hair. What happens now? That depends on Susan. What do you mean? Ms. Green explained my options. I can press criminal charges, which could result in federal prosecution. Or I can pursue civil recovery, which means Susan would have to pay back every penny plus interest and damages. And if she can't pay? Then we would pursue asset forfeiture. Her car, jewelry, anything of value until the debt is satisfied. Michael looks sick. What about the children? What about them? They'd lose everything too. Michael, your children are not responsible for their mother's crimes, but they are affected by them. That's a consequence Susan should have considered before she decided to steal from their grandmother. Michael nods slowly, absorbing the weight of my words. So what do you want us to do? I want Susan to acknowledge what she's done. I want her to take responsibility, and I want a realistic plan for repayment. And if she does that, then we can avoid criminal charges. But Michael, she has to move out. I can't live with someone who steals from me. Susan's voice echoes from upstairs, still raging at the injustice of it all. Michael winces. Let me talk to her, he says. An hour later, the house falls quiet, except for the sound of zippers and drawers closing. The children come downstairs with their overnight bags, looking lost. Grandma Helen? Lily approaches me hesitantly. Are you mad at us? My heart breaks. Oh, sweetheart, no. I could never be mad at you. You didn't do anything wrong. Then why can't we live here anymore? How do you explain adult failures to a 7-year-old? Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes that have big consequences. Your mommy made some mistakes with money, and now we have to figure out how to fix them. Ben tugs at my sleeve. Will you still help me with my science project? Of course I will. We'll work on it next weekend when you come visit. Susan finally comes downstairs, her face puffy from crying, but her expression hard. She's carrying 2 large suitcases and her purse. "This isn't over, Helen," she says quietly, but there's less venom in it now, more exhaustion. "Yes, it is, Susan. The stealing is over, the lying is over, the taking advantage of my generosity is over." "I never took advantage." "Susan!" Michael's voice cuts through her protest. "Just stop, please." She looks at him, then at me, then at her children, who are watching this adult world collapse around them. "I'll pay you back," she says finally. "How?" "I'll get a job. A real job." "What kind of job?" "I don't know yet. Something." "Susan, you haven't worked in 8 years. You have no recent job experience, no professional references. Even if you found work immediately, at minimum wage it would take you over a year just to pay back the principal, not counting interest." "Then what do you want me to do?" "I've been thinking about this during our meeting with Ms. Green." "You're going to sell everything you bought with my money?" "What?" "Every designer handbag, every piece of jewelry, every expensive item you purchased with that credit card. It all gets sold, and the money goes toward paying back the debt." Susan's face goes white. "Those are my things. Those are things you bought with stolen money. They're evidence of theft." "Some of those items were gifts." "Gifts you bought with my money." I pull out a folder Ms. Green prepared. "I have a complete list here, cross-referenced with the credit card statements. Every purchase over $50. Susan stares at the list. "You can't make me sell my personal belongings." "Actually, I can. Ms. Green was very clear about asset recovery in fraud cases." Michael takes the list from me, scanning it. "Susan, this is insane. You spent $800 on a purse?" "It was an investment piece." "It was theft," I interrupt. "And it's getting sold." The next hour is a blur of arrangements. Michael calls his brother to ask if they can stay in his guest room temporarily. I give Lily and Ben my phone number written on colorful paper and promise to call them every night at bedtime. Susan sits in sullen silence, occasionally muttering about lawyers and rights and unfairness. Finally, they're loading the car. The children hug me tightly, and I promise them again that this doesn't change how much I love them. Michael hugs me last. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry this happened. I know you are. I'll make sure she pays you back." "Michael, that's not your responsibility." "She's my wife. Her debts are my debts." "Her crimes are not your crimes. Don't take on guilt that isn't yours." As they drive away, I watch from the window until the taillights disappear. Then I walk through my house, my quiet, peaceful house, and assess the damage. In the kitchen, I make myself a cup of tea and sit at the table where the credit card statements are still scattered. $18,000, 2 years of lies, a family torn apart. But also, the truth finally revealed. The stealing stopped, my financial security protected. The phone rings. It's Emily. "How are you holding up?" "I'm okay. They're gone." "How do you feel about that?" I consider the question. Sad, relieved, angry, guilty. Guilty? About the children. They didn't deserve this. "Helen, you didn't cause this." "Susan's choices caused this." I know. Intellectually, I know. But my heart breaks for those kids. They'll be okay, and they'll still have you in their lives. Will they? Once Susan has time to think about this, to get advice from friends or lawyers or whoever, will she let them see me? if she tries to keep them away. We'll deal with that when it happens. Right now, focus on taking care of yourself. After we hang up, I wander through the house again. It feels different already. Lighter, somehow, but also empty. For 2 years, this place has been full of noise and activity, and the constant low-level stress of managing other people's needs. Now it's just me and the silence. I go to my desk and pull out a legal pad. At the top, I write, "Moving forward." Underneath, I make a list. Change all locks tomorrow. Close the joint credit card account. Set up a payment plan with Susan for debt recovery. Establish regular visitation schedule with Lily and Ben. Consider getting a small dog for companionship. Maybe take that cooking class I've been thinking about. Call old friends I've lost touch with. I pause at number 8, then write, "Forgive myself for trusting too much." Because that's what this was, really. Not naivety or stupidity, but trust. I trusted Susan to respect boundaries. I trusted her, to be honest. I trusted that taking her family into my home was an act of love that would be returned with love. I wasn't wrong to trust. Susan was wrong to betray that trust. The house settles around me with small creaks and sighs. Outside, the neighborhood is quiet, except for the distant sound of someone's television. This is my life now. Quiet, orderly, predictable. No one else's financial emergencies, no one else's dramas, no one else's messes to clean up. It should feel lonely, but it doesn't. It feels like peace. 3 weeks later, Susan calls. "I got a job," she says without preamble. "Where?" "Department, store, sales associate. It's not much, but it's something. That's good. I can pay you $50 a month." I do quick math in my head. At $50 a month, it would take her 30 years to pay back the principal alone. "Susan, that's not realistic." "It's what I can afford." "What about selling the items we discussed?" "I'm not selling my personal belongings." "Then we have a problem." "Helen, be reasonable. I have a job now. I'm trying to do the right thing." The right thing was not stealing from me in the first place. The right thing was being honest when I found out. The right thing is making meaningful restitution. $50 a month is meaningful to me. It's insulting to me. Silence on the line. Then, "What do you want?" "I want you to sell everything you bought with my money, as we discussed. I want you to set up a realistic payment plan for the remaining balance. And I want you to acknowledge that what you did was wrong." "I know it was wrong." "Do you? Because you keep talking about it like it was a misunderstanding instead of a crime." More silence. "Susan, I'm not trying to destroy your life, but I'm also not going to pretend that $50 a month for 30 years is adequate restitution for $18,000 in theft." "Fine, I'll look into selling some things." "All the things. Everything on the list." "Fine. And Susan, I want to see the children this weekend." "They're busy this weekend." "Busy with what?" "Michael's taking them to his brother's house." "They can visit me before they go." "We'll see." After she hangs up, I stare at the phone. This is how it's gonna be. A constant battle over every small thing. Payment plans, visitation, accountability. Susan is going to make this as difficult as possible, because in her mind, she's the victim here. But I'm not the same woman who discovered those credit card statements 3 weeks ago. That woman was shocked, hurt, betrayed. This woman is clear-eyed and determined. I pick up the phone and call Emily. "I need to proceed with criminal charges," I tell her. "What changed? Your mind?" "Susan called. She wants to pay me $50 a month and keep everything she bought with my money. She's not taking responsibility, and she's already trying to limit my access to the children. So you want to make it official? I want consequences that matter. If I don't hold her accountable, she'll just find another victim. Are you sure? Once we file charges, there's no going back. I think about Lily and Ben, who will have to live with the knowledge that their mother is a convicted felon. I think about Michael, who will have to navigate divorce proceedings while his wife faces federal charges. I think about myself, who will be seen by some as the heartless old woman who destroyed a family over money. Then I think about Susan, who stole from me for 2 years, lied to my face, and is now trying to manipulate her way out of consequences. I'm sure, I tell Emily. File the charges. Epilogue, 6 months later. The house is quiet, but not empty. Luna, my new golden retriever puppy, is sleeping in a patch of afternoon sunlight near the kitchen table where I'm working on a crossword puzzle. Classical music plays softly from the radio. The doorbell rings, and Luna scrambles to her feet, tail wagging. Through the peephole, I see Lily and Ben waiting on the porch with overnight bags. "Grandma Helen!" they chorus when I open the door, rushing to hug me. "Are you ready for our sleepover?" I ask, and they nod enthusiastically. Michael appears behind them, looking tired but more at peace than I've seen him in months. The divorce was finalized last week. Susan pled guilty to fraud charges and received 2 years, probation plus restitution. She sold most of the items on our list and is making regular payments now. Not enough to clear the debt quickly, but enough to show good faith. "Thanks for taking them tonight," Michael says. "I have that job interview tomorrow." "Of course. We're going to make pizza and watch movies. Right, kids?" As they run inside to greet Luna, Michael lingers on the porch. "Any word from Susan?" I ask. "She's doing okay. The job at the department store became full-time. She's living with her sister now. And the children. They see her every other weekend. It's hard, but they're adjusting." I nod. "They're resilient." "Mom, I want you to know, I understand why you pressed charges. I didn't at first, but I do now." "Oh." "Susan called me last week. She wanted me to ask you to forgive the remaining debt. She said she'd learned her lesson and deserved a fresh start." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that actions have consequences, and she needs to finish paying for hers." I smile at my son, who has grown up considerably in the past 6 months. "I'm proud of you, Michael. I should have seen what was happening. I should have protected you." "You couldn't have known. She was very careful to hide it." "Still." "Michael, we all make mistakes. The measure of a person isn't whether they make mistakes. It's how they handle them afterward." He hugs me goodbye, and I watch him drive away. Then I turn back to my house where my grandchildren are giggling as they try to teach Luna to sit. This isn't the life I planned when I invited Susan and Michael's family to move in with me. But it's a good life. Honest, peaceful, full of love, without the constant undercurrent of exploitation and lies. Some might say I was too harsh, that family should forgive family, regardless of the circumstances. But I've learned that forgiveness doesn't mean accepting continued abuse. It doesn't mean pretending theft was just a misunderstanding. It doesn't mean sacrificing your own well-being to enable someone else's bad choices. I forgave Susan for what she did, but I also held her accountable for it. There's a difference, and it's an important one. "Grandma Helen!" Lily calls from the kitchen. "Luna ate the cheese." I laugh and head inside to start making another pizza, grateful for the chaos that comes from love instead of the chaos that comes from lies. This is my house, my life, my peace. and I'm not sharing it with anyone who doesn't respect it. The end.